We're recording today live at the 2025 TEDco Entrepreneur Expo. My name is Chris Frew with BioBuzz Networks, and I'm pleased to be joined today by Emily McMahan, co-founder and general partner of AIN Ventures. So welcome.
Thanks for having me.
So as we get started, can you just give the audience a little bit of introduction to you and your firm?
Sure, absolutely. So AIN Ventures is an early stage venture capital fund. We invest in pre-seed and seed stage companies at the intersection of deep technology and dual use. We're based in New York City. I am actually based in Arlington, Virginia, hence my connection to the region.
And so being based down here in the region, tell us about how this region plays into your thesis and the type of startups and companies you work with.
Absolutely. So prior to this role, I used to run a business incubator in Virginia, and so was very connected to the greater DMV, DC, Maryland, Virginia, and really, connected to different resources and so forth. So kind of come from this area and this landscape with respect to startups. I specifically with Maryland, very interested in just being connected to the government and the dual use landscape, given proximity to a number of agencies and commands and different things with respect to our thesis and focus areas.
And when you think of dual use, that's a dual use being a military application and civilian. Is that right, or
Actually,
is there another use?
So I'm happy you asked. Dual use is actually, yes. I like to think of it as government and commercial because it's actually, while Department of Defense obviously has the largest budget in the government, dual use applies to things outside of defense, really whole of government. And so oftentimes you can see companies that either start in government and go commercial, or vice versa, start commercial and are looking to come into government.
I appreciate you explaining that. I only thought about the DoD.
Different tracks, yeah. So.
Well, as an investor and someone in this field, collaborations and partnerships are so important. I know that like TEDco is one. They have a federal program. Henry Jackson Foundation just launched their dual use incubator. So there's a lot of partners. Can you tell us about TEDco and some of the other partners that you work with to again, support your portfolio and identify new companies?
Absolutely. So TEDco, I think, is in a really interesting position because it is a state resource. And so to have a beacon and a flag and one touch point for a state, I think is super, super important. I mentioned earlier, I think being so close to other great states as well, like Virginia and DC, is really important for this bigger ecosystem. So specifically, I'm a huge fan of different events and activities that bring entrepreneurs together and attract founders from Maryland, such as the VC and DC event that I think does a great job of bringing together venture and founders. The Accelerate Breakfast, which also goes across and tries to attract founders from the region. And we've also done a number of events with Johns Hopkins and some of the different hubs and other things around the region to try to attract entrepreneurs and really just get to meet founders. So
yeah, the connectivity, the collisions are like so important.
Yes, I spend a lot of time thinking about that.
Yeah, it's important. I know Troy, the CEO of TEDco, that's a big area that he's passionate about. BioBuzz is built on the foundation of community and building collisions. So,
and I've been working with TEDco directly and indirectly since like 2013. So it's like kind of in my blood, I would say, in terms of organizations and just sort of like the seamless and I would say integration across a lot of the different activities and ecosystems. So, yeah.
So, Emily, tell me, when you look at potential companies to invest in, what stands out to you? What are some things that really kind of stand out that an entrepreneur can think about in this space?
Absolutely. So we invest in very, very early stage companies. And so ultimately, we're looking at the type of technology, really looking at the founder and the team to ultimately see that there is a fit between the founder and the type of problem that they're solving. either as a result of their industry experience or government experience. Oftentimes we see founders that are coming out of government that are trying to solve a problem. And ultimately, we're also looking for scalability. So is there a market that is scalable that can ultimately, capture this type of technology, product, whatever it is that they're building at scale is very important to us as venture investors ultimately, because we need to be able to scale that company and ultimately, return that capital back. So connection.
So a follow-on to that, in today's market with AI and advanced technologies, and there's just so many exciting things happening. What are one or two things that you're really excited about that you think does have that scale potential?
Yes, great question. So our fund specifically focuses on a couple of different areas. So specifically, we look at space companies, we look at life sciences companies. We also have an emphasis on sustainability tech, as well as you mentioned, AI, ML, DevOps types companies. So specifically within each of those areas, we see a lot of potential with respect to dual use. And as you mentioned earlier, those are areas that apply to both the Department of War and as well, other agencies and organizations within government.
That's exciting. Well, there's no shortage of excitement about some of the technologies that are out here now. I feel like every time I open my email, I see a new innovation that's coming forth.
Yeah, and I always tell people, this is such a great part of the country to be in with respect to dual use tech. And that's sort of the message when I travel, is just trying to showcase, this is a wonderful hub to be in terms of talent, in terms of, capital, and in terms of resources. So,
yeah, we have in Maryland specifically, we have so many federal labs, we have military bases. Whether you're in the cyberspace and you have NSA right here, you're in the life science space, you have Fort Detrick and Aberdeen. So I'm sure speaking of collisions, I'm sure the collisions are a lot more vibrant here than in many areas in the country.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things we talk about when we talk about Maryland is life sciences and cyber. I think are within our thesis two of the things that really rise to the top in terms of the state. And when you look at the universities and the talent, that's definitely the two areas that we look to Maryland founders to cover down.
So do you have any advice? I got to imagine there's some unique challenges developing a dual use technology than like a straight commercial use. So do you have any advice for maybe a commercial company that's thinking maybe this might have a dual use to it? How to approach that?
Yes. So, and that's going back to there's different ways to come into government. I think one of the pieces, and it depends on what the company is doing, but I think learning and getting educated on the academic ways of going into government in terms of compliance and some of the kind of thou shalls, just really understanding those frameworks and kind of what you need to do. And I think you also need to understand your customers. And so oftentimes for folks that are not familiar with government, it's just ultimately understanding who are my customers and what does that process look like and how do I ultimately cut that time down and get smart on that. I think one of the great things about going into government is there are a lot of programs, but there's also sometimes just some education that I think can be intimidating if you don't come from that world and that background. And so I think it's also just recognizing there are a lot of resources and folks to help, but how do you just kind of do that as quickly as possible? I think the other piece is just recognizing some of the timelines and some of the challenges. And I think that's another reason why dual use is such a great way to go, because you can access funding that ultimately can extend your runway as you're developing your product and ultimately trying to scale. And that's a really interesting opportunity that a lot of companies are trying to access, but sometimes just don't know how to make that happen. And so, we're a resource. There's tons of great resources, I think, that are able to do that for companies, whether it's VC funds or, universities or, just different agencies specifically in the government that are trying to attract startups. There's a lot of different ways to do that.
So definitely get academically educated on what the government needs. It sounds like a good foundational point to it. And I know TEDCO's got a FedTech program that can help, and
absolutely,
we mentioned, and some others. So
great.
Well, and Emily, thank you for sharing your story with us today and
Thank
everything
you.
you're working on. It is an
Thank you.
exciting space.
Yeah.
Both DoD and government and civilian. I mean, we are at the heart of innovation. We're here today at the TEDCO Expo, where we have 1,000 companies coming together.
Appreciate it.
Again, I'm sure your head's spinning like mine is on all the cool technology that's coming out here today.
I'm very much looking forward to the afternoon. So, thank you so much.
Again, thank you for your leadership and what you do and supporting the ecosystem.
Appreciate it. Okay.
Thank you all for joining us today. My name is Chris Frew with BioBuzz Networks, recording today live at the 2025 TEDCO Expo. Thank you.